Before we dive in, take a second to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a drop of this fire. If you're chasing greatness, if you're tired of average, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it, because what I'm about to say might be the exact push you've been waiting for. They'll tell you the climb is impossible alone, that greatness requires a crowd, that without a mentor, a mastermind group, a cheering squad, you'll lose your way. They'll preach connection as if it's the only currency for success. But what they won't tell you, what they never highlight, is that the most transformative chapters of a high performer's life are often written in silence, alone, without fanfare, without followers. Muhammad Ali once said, "The fight is won or lost far away from witnesses, behind the lines, in the gym, and out there on the road, long before I dance under those lights." Understand this: before the spotlight, there is solitude. And in that solitude, true strength is born. This isn't a declaration against community or the power of teams. Those things matter in due time. But before the connections come, before the world knows your name, there must be a season where the noise fades and only your inner voice remains. A time when you rise not because someone is watching, but because something within you refuses to stay down. Think of Kobe Bryant, showing up at 4 a.m. to shoot hoops while the city still slept. That's not discipline driven by applause. That's obsession born in solitude. That's how excellence is sculpted, one quiet, relentless morning at a time. Because the truth is, the early stages of mastery are often unseen. The foundation is laid in dark rooms, in early alarms, in weekends skipped and parties declined. This is where self-trust is built. When you face your demons without distraction, when you make progress without praise. It's where you discover who you are when the crowd isn't clapping, when no one says, "Good job," and all you have is grit. Solitude reveals your edge, and for those willing to embrace it, it sharpens you into something unstoppable. So no, you don't need to wait for a team. You don't need permission. You need hunger. You need clarity. You need that rare kind of courage that doesn't need to be seen to feel real. Because the truth is, if you can thrive in silence, if you can rise in isolation, then no crowd can break you. And when the day finally comes that the world takes notice, you'll know you weren't made by their approval. You were forged in fire long before they arrived. There comes a moment when your actions stop being a performance for the world and start becoming a promise to yourself. You're no longer chasing validation. You're no longer counting likes or waiting for someone to pat you on the back. You begin showing up not because anyone's watching, but because you are. That's when real confidence takes root. Not the flimsy kind built on compliments. Not the surface-level swagger that crumbles when life throws a punch. This is a deeper fire. The kind that survives storms because it was born in one. It's forged in quiet hours and kept alive by discipline. You stop asking for approval. You stop needing to be understood. You start moving like a force of nature, unapologetic, focused, and immune to noise. Bain's words in The Dark Knight Rises weren't just theatrics when he said, "You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it." That's not just villain dialogue. That's a metaphor for solitude, for the process of transformation that happens when no one's around to cheer you through it. Solitude strips away the comfort. It burns through your excuses. It forces you to hear your own voice and follow it. This is where true leadership begins. Not of others, but of yourself. You become your own guide, your own motivator, your own standard. That's power. Not the kind that's given, but the kind that's earned through silence, suffering, and persistence. But here's what most people don't say out loud. The part that never makes it to the highlight reels or the interview chair. Every transformation, every great success has a middle chapter. And that chapter? It's not flashy. It's not Instagram-worthy. It's the valley before the summit, and it's silent, lonely, and brutal. It's the part where most people give up, not because they weren't talented, not because they didn't want it, but because the middle is harder than the beginning. You've committed to change? Yes. You're waking up early. You're putting in the reps. You're reading while others scroll. You're cutting off distractions. You're stepping into a new version of yourself. But here's the thing. It hasn't paid off yet. You're not reaping rewards. You're still in the dark. You're caught in that strange in-between. Not who you were, not yet who you'll become. You're climbing, but the peak still feels out of reach. The people around you don't get it. They see your growth as a threat to their comfort. The friends you once laughed with now raise eyebrows at your discipline. They question the books you read, the choices you make, the parties you skip. They mock your ambition and call it arrogance. And they say it like a curse. You've changed. But that's the highest compliment they could give, because it means you're no longer fitting in where you don't belong. It means the shedding has begun. The old you is dying. And with that death comes the birth of someone powerful, someone untouchable. And they're right. You have changed. But what they won't admit, at least not out loud, is that your evolution unsettles them. Not because you're failing, but because you're rising. And every inch of your climb reflects back to them the mountain they're still afraid to approach. Your transformation becomes a mirror, one that forces them to see their own stagnation, their own fear, their own potential left untouched. You are proof that growth is possible, and for some, that's uncomfortable. Because if you can change, it means they could too, but they haven't. And so, rather than face that truth, they mock the process they don't understand. This middle chapter you're in, it's lonely, yes, but not just because others are no longer walking beside you. It's lonely because you're leaving behind a version of yourself that once kept you comfortable, the version that smiled for approval, that played small to keep the peace, that dimmed its light so others wouldn't feel blind. And even though that version held you back, it also protected you. It gave you shelter. So now, as you shed that skin, you're not just letting go of people, you're grieving the comfort of who you used to be. You're burning the bridge to the identity that got you this far, but won't carry you further. And that's a kind of pain most people don't talk about, the ache of outgrowing yourself. But that's the work. That's the sacred, gritty truth of transformation. Most people turn back here, not because they're lazy, not because they don't want it, but because this part, this valley, this void, it has no map. It's the chapter where the applause has stopped, the results haven't come, and all you've got is a vision no one else can see. It's hard. It's humbling. It's long. You're planting seeds in soil that still looks barren. You're pouring effort into a future that hasn't bloomed, and the temptation to retreat, to go back to familiar ground, it's real. But going back means abandoning the person you're becoming. And you didn't come this far just to be who you were. So if you're in this place right now, knee-deep in discomfort, lost in the fog of the in-between, don't turn back. Don't confuse silence with failure. Don't mistake the absence of results for the absence of progress. This pain is the proof. It means you're on the edge of something new. It means you're walking a path few are willing to tread. And the voice in your head that says, maybe I should just go back. That's the old you begging for survival. But you're not going back. Not this time. You're not retreating. You're becoming. You make it through this chapter, and you don't just become someone who succeeded, you become someone who survived. You don't emerge with a trophy or a title. You emerge with something far rarer, an unshakable sense of self. Not the self that was handed to you by circumstance or shaped by other people's expectations, but the one you carved out with your own hands in the dark. The version of you that was built when no one was watching, when no one was cheering, when no one understood. That kind of identity isn't fragile. It doesn't crumble when things get hard. It doesn't rely on applause to stand. It was forged in silence. And when you finally step into your light, you'll carry with you the weight of every quiet morning, every lonely night, every choice to keep going. That's what will separate you from the rest. You didn't quit when no one would have blamed you if you had. This part, the quiet middle, is the graveyard of most goals. And not because people lack the work ethic or the hunger, but because it's brutally silent. There's no recognition for skipping the party to grind. No congratulations for choosing growth over gossip. No instant reward for sacrificing now for later. All the magic, all the change happens in private. You're building yourself one invisible brick at a time. It's slow. It's thankless. It's heavy. And yet, this is the only way transformation happens. Not in the spotlight, not on stage, but in the shadows. In the repetitions no one sees. In the decisions you make when no one's looking. And that's what makes it real. That's what makes it last. Because, let's be honest, we all crave connection. We all want someone to look us in the eye and say, "I see you, I get it. Keep going." But this chapter offers none of that. You'll wake up and realize your old circles don't get you anymore. The small talk feels empty. The same jokes don't land. The same distractions don't excite you. You're not broken. You're evolving. But that evolution isolates you. It creates distance between who you were and who you're becoming. And in that gap, doubt creeps in. You start questioning everything. Am I doing too much? Am I making this harder than it needs to be? Maybe I'm just being obsessive. Maybe I should go back to normal. Because normal feels safe. Normal feels liked. But normal never felt fulfilling. And that's what you have to remember. So yes, most people go back. And not because they're weak, not because they didn't want it, but because they got tired of walking a road no one else could see. And for a moment, going back feels like a relief. You get to blend in again. You get to laugh again, fit in again, belong again. But beneath that comfort, something begins to ache. A whisper in your soul starts to echo. You stopped too soon. You left the path when you were closest to the breakthrough. And that's the ache of untapped potential. The regret of someone who saw the edge of greatness but didn't cross. But not you. You're not going back. Because you know now, the silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And you were never alone. You were just becoming someone the world hadn't met yet. Because here's the hard truth. This lonely middle chapter, it's not a mistake. It's not a detour. It's not some glitch in the storyline you were meant to skip over. This is the path. That silence, that disconnect, that deep, nagging uncertainty, that's not proof that you're lost. It's the clearest signal you've ever had that you're finally stepping onto your real path. Every champion you've ever admired, every visionary you've ever quoted, every warrior you've ever looked up to, they all walked through this tunnel. Not around it, through it. There is no version of greatness that skips this part. There is no shortcut around discomfort. If you want to be uncommon, you have to be willing to endure what most people won't. So if you're there right now, if the nights are quiet and long, if the days feel like they're blending into each other, if your energy is wearing thin and you've started to wonder, is this even worth it? Let me tell you something real. That's your sign that you're doing it right. That's what transformation looks like. It's not glamorous. It's not clean. It's not dressed up with perfect lighting or curated to fit into a social media feed. No, this part is raw. It's uncomfortable. It's deeply personal. But it's powerful in ways that most will never understand. Because this is the exact place where the old version of you gets left behind and the new one is born. And here's the kicker. Right now, in this silent stretch of the journey, you're building something no one else can see. While others are scrolling, doubting, quitting, you're building a foundation they'll never understand. You're creating inner strength that doesn't waver when life gets hard. You're developing habits that will carry you when motivation is nowhere to be found. You're becoming the version of yourself that your future dreams require. That kind of growth, it's invisible until it's undeniable. That's why you can't measure your progress with applause. You measure it in consistency, in patience, in how often you get back up when no one's looking. One day, people will see what you've become. They'll admire your discipline, your focus, your strength. They'll ask how you stayed so calm, how you kept your fire lit, how you kept going when others gave up. But they won't know what it took. They won't know the silence, the nights you questioned everything, the weight you carried when no one was clapping. But you will, and that's what will make it all mean something. Because you'll know. You walked through the tunnel and didn't turn back. You didn't let the darkness break you. You became something inside it. And now, because of that, the next part, it's where you start becoming undeniable. We live in a world that glorifies shortcuts. Everywhere you look, it's buy this system, follow this formula, get a mentor, and you'll fast-track success. And don't get me wrong, guidance has its place. A good coach, a wise word, a solid framework can help. But somewhere along the way, we forgot something crucial: the power of figuring it out yourself. Everyone wants a map, but no one wants to take the machete and cut their way through the jungle. That's the problem. Because when you always outsource your thinking, when you lean on someone else to tell you what to believe, when to move, how to start, you never develop the one thing that actually leads to lasting transformation: internal strength. That kind of strength? It's not built in webinars or masterminds. It's built when you're alone in the weight room. No spotter, no cheerleader, no one to scream one more rep. It's built when the bar gets heavy and it's just you. Either you crumble or you rise. That's where toughness is formed. Not in applause, not in awards, but in solitude. In the quiet grind when the only person holding you up is you. When you chase a goal and nobody's watching. When you finish something hard and there's no one there to clap or congratulate you, and you do it anyway. That's when the fire stops being external and becomes personal. That's when it gets real. And here's what happens. You stop needing applause. You stop looking around for someone to validate your effort. You stop chasing praise and start moving with intention. Because it's no longer about who sees you. It's about who you refuse to be. You suffer in silence, and you keep going anyway. You drag yourself through the darkest days without complaint. And that's where grit is formed. Not the hashtag kind. Not the performative kind. The real kind. The kind no course can teach. The kind no coach can hand you. The kind no group chat can fake. It's forged when you decide, I'm not backing down, no matter what. David Goggins said it best. No one helped me get there. No one paid my bills. No one ran those miles. I suffered on my own and developed this man. That's not ego. That's evolution. That's what happens when you stop waiting for someone to come save you. You stop wishing for an easier path and start sharpening your blade. You take ownership. You take the hits. You don't flinch. You get knocked down and you rebuild. You stop looking outward and start looking in the mirror, and you say, this is all I've got, so I'll make it enough. That is the kind of power most people will never know. Not because they couldn't, but because they won't. Most people never walk that road. They never leave the crowd, never challenge the script, never risk the silence. But you're not most people. You're building something deeper, something that doesn't crumble when life punches back. You're not becoming reliant on outside forces. You're becoming resilient. And that difference, that's everything. There's something sacred about training at 3 a.m. Not because the stars align, not because it's some mystical hour, but because of what it represents. The world is asleep, and you're not. Everyone else is dreaming, and you're building. No noise, no distractions. Just the hum of silence and your heartbeat pushing forward. When the streets are empty, when the notifications stop, when there's no one around to validate you, that's where the edge is carved. That's where your focus sharpens into a blade, where every drop of sweat becomes a silent vow, where every rep, every page, every lonely, painful step is a promise whispered to yourself. I'm not here to be like them. There's a massive difference between working hard and working in the dark. The dark doesn't lie to you. It doesn't clap. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't hand out trophies. It strips you bare. It humbles. It isolates. But it also transforms. And yes, people will talk. They'll call you extreme, obsessed, unbalanced. Let them. They don't hear the war in your chest. They don't see the version of you being forged in silence. Let them sleep. Let them mock. Let them stay soft. Because while they chase comfort, you're chasing something greater. Mastery, power, freedom. And none of that comes from ordinary effort. None of that comes from walking the well-lit path. Extraordinary results demand extraordinary sacrifice. If you want the rewards most fear, you must do the work most avoid. If you want to rise above the noise, you have to thrive in the silence. So wake up at 3 a.m. Train when no one is watching. Study when no one is cheering. Work in the shadows, because when the light finally comes, you won't just shine, you'll blind them. But there's a brutal truth you need to understand. People want you to succeed, just not more than them. When you're at the bottom, when you're struggling, they'll cheer you on. Go for your dreams, they say. But when you start climbing, when the results start to show, watch how the tone shifts. Oh, you've changed. Must be nice. You think you're better now? Understand this. People love the underdog, but they resent the champion. That's why you must become your own biggest supporter. Because the crowd's approval, it's temporary. But your self-belief, that has to be permanent. You want to find your true self? Go be alone. No distractions, no filters, no noise, just you and you. Most people avoid this because they're afraid of what they'll find. But you're not most people. You're here because something inside you is done settling. You're here because your soul is starving for more. And every time you train alone, suffer in silence, work without applause, you're building something rare. You're laying down a foundation that no one can shake. That's why the higher you rise, the fewer people you'll find beside you. The air gets thinner at the top. Not everyone's willing to pay the price. Not everyone can walk away from comfort, but you will. That's what sets you apart. Distraction is easy. Depth is rare. Solitude is the only environment where real transformation happens. No notifications, no small talk, just work. This is how you compress years into months. This is how you build momentum while the world scrolls and drifts. And when there's no one watching, that's when self-motivation becomes your superpower. You push without praise. You rise without a why. You move because it's who you are. And when the moment finally comes, when the world finally sees what you've become, you won't even need the applause, because you didn't build this for them. You were already built in the dark. Kobe Bryant said, "Obsession comes in the small details nobody pays attention to." And you've been obsessing. You've been building in silence. And now you're ready to rise in power. So here's your reminder, the one you needed today, the one the world won't give you. You don't need anyone to clap for you. You don't need a post, a like, a shout out. You don't need someone to validate your grind or tell you you're on the right path, because you already know. You don't need validation to be valuable. You don't need applause to stay committed. And you sure as hell don't need permission to rise. What you need is courage to face the silence, discipline to keep showing up, vision to remember where you're going, even when no one else sees it. Most people won't understand your journey. They'll question your silence. They'll misread your focus. They'll call your sacrifice extreme. But they don't see what you see. They don't feel what you feel. They don't carry the fire that's burning inside you. And most of all, they're not willing to walk alone. But you are. And that's what separates you. Anyone can talk when the crowd is cheering. Anyone can move when the path is smooth. But few, very few, will walk the path when it's silent, cold, and thankless. That's where greatness is born. In the emptiness. In the quiet suffering. In the moments when nobody's watching, but you show up anyway. Because you don't need the world to believe in you. You need to believe in yourself. Every early morning you drag yourself out of bed. Every late night you grind while others sleep. Every moment you resist comfort and choose discipline. You're not just building skill. You're forging a weapon. You're becoming something the world can't ignore. The empty gym, the silent mornings, the lonely grind, they're not signs of failure. They are the fire that will shape your edge. The world will only see the result, but you'll know the process, and that's why you'll win. Do it alone now so you can stand apart later. Your mind is your greatest weapon. Now train it like one.